the music industry as it was is quite the jungle, obviously. And look, to navigate a jungle, one must use a machete, so to speak.
Ghost Cult Magazine welcomes back in. Jeris Johnson, how are you doing, man?
Hey, man, doing good.
I'm so glad you're doing good. It has been a tumultuous year in the world as well as in your life, personally and professionally, I suspect. We met at Aftershock 2022 and had an amazing chat, and you killed it up there on your own show and a guest appearance, and I think two was a wild time at that festival, which was very hot. But you came in.
Yes.
We had a lot of fun. You had a real, riding high on this crest of newfound popularity, and all this hard work you put in. And we were talking about an album we expected to hear by now, and you had a record deal, and a whole bunch of stuff happened. So let's catch our
Yeah.
fans up on the last year of your life and everything you went through.
Yeah, big year, big year for everybody, obviously, like you said. It's I think I guess at this point it just feels kind of true of every year. Every year I feel like feels like a fucking huge year, now. So yeah, but it was big. And look, the music industry as it was is quite the jungle, obviously. And look, to navigate a jungle, one must use a machete, so to speak. And yeah, I went through a lot, and it was a lot of realizing that what everybody tells you about the music industry is actually true. And even though you can understand in your head, like, oh yeah, well, record labels and this and that and the other, there's problems, and everybody understands this, but until you actually go through some real shit and have something that you experience personally, until you experience that, you don't really fully grasp what it's actually like. So that was kind of my experience over the past, year, essentially. And the long and short of it basically is, like I signed a deal way back when I first blew up, if you will, on TikTok and everything, and signed the deal then, and everything was great and fine. And that's in large part because I just had a lot of momentum, at the time, and I was just riding high on like a few early wins. And then eventually that label that I signed with got purchased, massive hundreds of millions of dollars level corporate purchase. And I got absorbed. I went from being a part of like a basically an independent label to being absorbed into a massive Warner Brothers, corporation, essentially. And that, and part of it wasn't necessarily the fault of people that I was working with directly, because whenever there's a massive multi hundreds of millions of dollar corporation buyout and everybody's getting fired and hired, and of course shit's gonna be messy, for a long time. And it was really messy. And look, it just ended up being like a really not good situation. And I just kind of, yeah, fell to the wayside, got shelved is what they call it. And didn't release any music for a while, wanted out, had to deal with that, negotiate that, and blah blah blah. All that kind of shit. So yeah, I essentially kind of had to take the past year off, and I decided to use it spiritually to my advantage, and take a year off of like posting on social media, just like go away and work on the music, and just think about who I am as a fucking artist and a person, and just like work on that for a year, and not worry about trying to go viral on TikTok or trying to whatever, while I was in the background, dealing with getting out of the shitty label situation. I was just like, I might as well use this somewhat to my advantage. If I can't release any fucking music anyways, no point in me posting, because what am I going to post? That something's going to go viral or whatever, and then I can't even do anything about it. So it's just not even a point. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm just going to go away. And honestly, like TikTok and shit was stressing me the fuck out, and I was just kind of tired of it. So yeah, I just went away for a year and started working really, truly working on this album. And I think around that time at Aftershock, I had kind of basically just started to really like, yeah, go down this journey a little bit. And then essentially this whole year, the year of 2023, I've been doing nothing but work on this album. And yeah, and obviously the new song When the Darkness Comes just came out, and that's been doing like really well. And I'm very thankful and grateful to people for listening and like, kind of helping this first song blow up. Like, this is my first really my first track back from all this mess, and as a new independent artist, to have it like charting on Billboard and #1 most played song on Octane and almost 2 million streams and like all this stuff. It's like, it just, man, it really feels good and makes me feel like I made the right decision, to leave the situation I was in and come into this situation. So yeah, that's essentially been my year in a nutshell.
Right on, and thanks for unpacking all that. And I want to say, like, I can't imagine how devastating it would be to sign as an independent, self made DIY artist, sign a deal that I assume was hopefully favorable in the first place for you maintaining that creative control, and then you get swallowed up by the whale. And listen, Warner owns a ton of labels. I'm wearing a Typo Negative shirt. They own Roadrunner, who was,
Yeah.
Typo Negative's label back in the
Yep.
90s, and
You're
a
right.
bunch of, and Fueled by Ramen, and
Yes.
Electra, and a bunch of other
Yes.
labels. But like, I don't know, like, when your label was absorbed, and I think you mentioned in your video we're going to talk about in a second that you posted to YouTube, that I think your team also left. The team that brought you in, the A&R people, if that exists anymore, they were no longer part of the new regime because they have
Yeah,
their own in place.
I kept maybe one or two people from my old team, and then everything else got shifted, and that when you build relationships and stuff, and like I said, the first deal I signed, when I signed it, I it's crazy because I didn't even realize going into this that was even possible. Like, I signed a deal with this one label because I liked what they stood for. I connected with them the most, out of all. I had tons of meetings way back early on, when I first blew up and went viral. And if anybody's ever gone viral, with a song, that it doesn't take long for almost everybody to hit you up, and so I had fucking, whatever, like 18 meetings or whatever in a weekend. And I really, the one I liked the most was this one that I signed with. And so I didn't even realize it was possible to sign a deal with a label that you like, and then completely out of your control, and you will still be held under contract. Everything can change, and you can get put onto, through a buyout, a whole different label that I didn't even agree to sign to in the first place, which, to that, I mean, I imagine that it sounds insane to me, and so I can only imagine what it sounds like to like the average person. Like, just like, yeah, you can sign a contract with a label that you like, and then get put on a completely different label that you didn't sign the contract with, and you still have to honor the contract, so it's just wild world out there, man. It really is. And yeah, as you said, they own a lot, and they're huge infrastructure. And I went in somewhat hopeful, not trying to be too pessimistic about it. Like, all right, well, big infrastructure, maybe I can use this to my advantage. But it fell apart pretty quickly. And it's not even like necessarily even bad in the ways that people think that labels are bad. Like, a lot of times, like you said, creative control and stuff, people imagine like that there's like all these corporate overlords telling you like what to do with your sound or whatever. And that's personally never been my experience. I've always been able to make whatever music I wanted to make, and then they were to do whatever they could with whatever I made. So I always had creative control. But It was actually just, the ways that it's bad and the ways that my situation was bad. It wasn't like this like evil, puppeteering kind of like thing. It was so much more like just dumb and lame and just kind of like, big corporate kind of like mismanagement of things because it's too much. There's too many. I mean, what is there like on Elektra alone? One division of Warner Brothers. There's like what 300 fucking. I mean, a ton of artists, and I was a part of that. And there's just too much. There's too much to work on. There's too little people working on it, and it's just not an infrastructure that in 2023 is set up to succeed.
Indeed, and I want to, and we don't necessarily, like it's basically record labels are a bank that you borrow money from if you need it, and they can help with distribution, marketing, and promotion. But there's a lot of opportunities. Like you came up in the social media world as a digital native, as a young guy, and I work in social media as an older guy, and you have other means now. You don't necessarily need the only model, the old model. But I do want to say, you seem like a
Yeah.
very level-headed dude, and meeting you in person and now talking to you again. Did you have like one petty, angry moment where you were like, "I'll just leak the record," even though we know there could be serious repercussions if you did? Did you think
I
about
mean,
it?
there's not like what's funny is like I could post. They didn't never cared about me posting any leak or anything. It's like I could post whatever, but it's like you're not allowed to. You're either sometimes the only chance you would have of actually being able to release something is if you leaked it and it went viral. And then oh well now it's basically the whole game is like a lot of labels these days want you to figure out how to be successful and then they can just take something that's already successful. That's why I mean that's the only people they sign. They don't sign nobodies and develop a nobody. They only sign shit that's already being successful. So when I was first popping off and had viral shit that was was going crazy and streaming and I was going viral every 2 seconds and stuff like, well, yeah, they signed me because I was already successful. I was already becoming successful, which, to be fair, obviously they, as any investor would want, they would probably want some level of proof that their investment is going to work in some type of way, and that's fine. But they don't usually these days, like back in where whenever old days, old people times, like they would really like they'd have to find undiscovered talent and develop them into being, stars or whatever. And now the stars or the artists, us, we develop ourselves and become famous or popular or successful ourselves, and then the money and then the deals come in. But my point these days to most artists is like, bro, I mean, if you are getting to the point where labels are offering you deals anyways, that means that you are doing something right and you are already having success on your own. And there are so many other better options, to better paths to go down, So yeah, I mean, of course, I had to your point about um anger or whatever. Like, of course, I had plenty of frustrating moments where um you know of course you just want to fucking tell them to fuck off or whatever. You want to say everything, but it just doesn't help. Like I am very level-headed, and to me, like, I'm not scared of conflict in any way, shape, or form, but to me there has to be a good reason to get into a conflict with somebody, especially a business conflict. And if there's not, like, if it's not going to actually help or move anything forward and it's just going to make everything worse, then there really is just no point into starting a bunch of shit that, isn't really going to have any upside. So, yeah, I just in general held my tongue and just pushed my way through it. And, obviously it was just like tried to get through the leaving as fast as possible. Because once I realized and once I knew I needed to leave, I was just like, all right, let's just fucking figure out how to get it done. And I'll just keep my head down and work on my shit.
Right on. Last non music question, then I promise we're going to talk about these songs and more stuff to come. I really loved the video you made a few weeks back, preceding the two singles. You popped back up on social media. I saw it on YouTube, and you gave this really in depth. You didn't have to explain yourself, but I like that you did, and I felt like it was very in character of your relationship with your fans. And I, like you said, you disappeared because if there's nothing to promote, why keep playing the game and grinding on socials? But I like that you came back and you gave this video like, here's what's up. Here's what happened. Here's why. If you've been wondering, because I had a client that was an influencer, and then they got burned out and deleted all their stuff, which was also a lot of my work. And oops, and that sucked. And they vanished from socials, and people like there's like forums and Reddits about like where did they go? Where did this influencer group go? And so I know your fans were like, hey, where's Jeris? Where's Jeris? Where's Jeris? Why is he doing this? And you came back and answered that. You did it for yourself, but you did it for them too, and I really respect that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to, obviously shed light to anybody. I don't know if anybody would care or anything. I have no idea, but I do have like a sizable, subscriber base on YouTube. And so I'm like, all right, well, fuck it. Might as well explain where I've been and why I haven't posted anything for a year. And also just kind of get people hyped for the future, because that's really what it's all about. At the end of the day, all this shit is gone. It's like I'm out of it. It's gone. It's done. So at the end of the day, I don't even really care to like, speak on it much more past this time period, because now I'm just like and I get people are curious, whatever, and I'm more than happy to continue to explain, because I think it's an important message, obviously, as well, to get out there. But half the reason I made that video was just kind of be like, this is also, what's coming up. Like, I'm back, and I'm here to like actually do this now for real, like do it for real, and have complete control over how I'm doing it. So yeah, that was kind of the big thing, just to get everybody hyped again, and like just let them know, hey, like I'm fucking back, and like we're gonna actually do this now. Like, you thought I was popping before, like just you know just wait. So
Right on. I
yeah.
love that. And you're not just the TikTok guy, and you're not the TikTok sound guy, and you're not the guest guy on Papa Roach and Bring Me the Horizon, which we love. But like, I love these tracks. I do feel like they really represent like a whole new lease on life, a new chapter. I think people are gonna really discover you. In addition to being a very fine vocalist, you actually write, produce, play instruments. Like, this is all you. So I
Yep.
think people are gonna really get the full experience now. Like, maybe they saw you a certain way, and now you're gonna come back with this new
Yeah.
album, I presume, and have this for now, and this experience.
And look, when people start seeing you as a certain way, it's a hard box to climb out of. And many artists and bands have gone through this in various phases, where they start one way and they build a little bit of a following doing something, and then they realize that they need to change or evolve or whatever in some type of way. And it takes some time for people to accept that they're not actually, this band or this artist isn't just this thing or what. Like, I'm not a fucking cover song guy, like, yeah, I posted a bunch of TikToks of like rock remixes and all kinds of shit that I did a few years ago, and it was fun and cool and really good, but like, it was a means to an end. It was just like a way for me to just keep building a following and just get my name out there a little bit, and I mean, it was working, so I did. But yeah, the kind of like that kind of, when you build up a sort of a brand like that, it takes some time to kind of undig yourself out of that hole a little bit, so it's going to take a second, obviously. I mean, honestly, people have responded a lot more quickly to this new era than I thought, because When the Darkness Comes is doing so well and has gotten so much attention and gone, more viral than pretty much any of my other like original songs, besides like the remixes, so actually, like, as far as like a true original song, this is like probably my biggest like true original song ever. And yeah, so to have that like kind of pop off this early, like, it just makes me so happy, because I know what's coming. I understand like what's coming down the line, because I'm the one that's been making this album and everything. And so the picture is going to become more and more and more clear as time goes on, and the more songs I drop, the more videos I drop, the more people's understanding and perception of me is just going to keep shifting to being this new thing, you know? So yeah, and look, and it's not, I'm the artist. It's not my job to control people's perception of me or of the art. It's their job. It's art, you know? So that's something else I learned too, is like I perceive myself in all these all these other ways, or, in so many different ways. And like other people don't perceive me as those ways. And part of it is just the fact that we aren't really in control of how people perceive us, and that's fine. Most dudes in bands or artists, will tell you this same thing, that their fans view them a certain way, that they're not fully that. It's maybe part of who they are, but it's not really the whole picture. So look, people are just going to perceive you whichever way they're going to, so you can't really control that. But what you can control is the art and the visuals and the product and all that stuff. And that's what I have just been focusing on, is just how do I make the greatest art that I can make, and then everything else I want will follow. It will connect with people, it will connect with the right people. People will start to view me as this, that, and the other, or whatever, see my artistry for what it truly is, and all I have to focus on is just making the greatest shit that I can make.
Word, I love that. When you go to write songs now, or at all, what do you pick up first? Is it a verse? Is it a melody? Is it a guitar riff? A beat? What do you do when you sit down, when you're in the lab and you're just making stuff? What's the first thing that comes to you?
Good question. I don't know. Usually, it's usually one of a couple of things. A riff, I'll reach for the guitar, especially with this new album where it's so genuinely, rock and metal focused and everything. Like, a lot of the times the first thing I'll grab is the guitar and just start fucking around, seeing where it goes. And then if it's not that, then it'll often be like a beat of some kind, me like on the computer, making a beat, and starting like not with a metal or rock song, and just like making a beat or a production, and just, I don't know, just seeing where it goes. Or sometimes it's a sample of something, or it just depends, really just depends. But it's usually often either I'm just starting on the computer and just fucking around with sounds and producing, and just waiting till something grabs me, and till you get that feeling where you're like, ooh, there's something there. There's a pull, to explore. A new idea just popped in your head that you can explore. And this, maybe the amount of times I've started songs where it started as one thing and ended up as a completely different thing is all of the time. Like, it just, where the first like hour of me working on something, I'll be working on something and I'll think it's like going to be this type of thing, and then I'll be like, all right, so time to pick up the guitar and see how I can incorporate that into this. And then just by doing that, it'll like, oh, whoa, like I didn't even think about it like that. Now, oh, I feel like the song actually should be like this or whatever. And then you go down this path. And so just kind of a whole thing. And each song is different too. It also depends if I'm like in the room with one of my friends, that I'm like writing with or whatever. And like, just depends. But yeah, it's usually one of those like two, three things.
Right on. Is it safe to say that lyrically this album may draw a little bit on your recent experience in the business, or is it going to be different personal stories?
There is maybe, I mean, I'm not gonna make a fucking song that's like fuck you record labels, but there is a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, obviously. And the album is also very much a concept album in a lot of ways, and the lyrics are very themed, I will say, and that's going to be very obvious to people coming up here very shortly, with a couple of the next couple of songs I'm going to drop. And like I said, the picture will become very clear, probably even with this next song that I'm dropping. It will, on December 1st, which if you said this is going to take a month to edit, then it will be out by then. So Ode to Metal, everybody loves it, you've heard it, it's blowing up. But yeah, the song called Ode to Metal. And even that alone is probably gonna, people are gonna be like, oh, like Jeris is doing this. Okay, all right. So yeah, it's basically like a concept album, and a lot of the lyrics are very themed and conceptual and play within the world that I have built. So yeah, not too much. I still got a couple more. I still have a little bit more lyrics to write, but as it stands, not too much direct fuck you, whatever, uh record label industry stuff going on.
Good call. And as nerds and metalheads, I'm all about it now. I was already intrigued, and now I'm so much more so, because that sounds like our playground, our sandbox.
Yep.
Concept albums and nerd shit about metal. I'm about it. And
Yeah,
I'm super excited for this record to drop. I do hope you're gonna take it on the road and tour, because I love seeing you live for the first time and do your thing on stage at
I will.
Aftershock, and I want to see more of it. And I'm interested to know, like, in the future, would you be, obviously you're focusing on your art right now and your career and your sound. But if someone did call out of the blue and offer you a guest spot, would you be resistant? Would you think about it hard first? Would you jump and say yes if the right person called and asked you to do a
I mean,
collab?
there's things happening in the background right now, that I won't speak on yet. So the answer is yes. I mean, like collabs I love collaborating with, especially bands and stuff like this. I do love that, and I've had a lot of success and fun, doing that. So, it's a part of who I am, and it's not something I ever want to get rid of. I just wanted them to take a new shape, and yeah, I've got some things sitting in the can that will hopefully come to light here in the next 6 months to a year. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, as far as the album goes, so far, which could change, but so far there's not a single feature on the album, and it's my fucking album. So that's the way it is so far. But could change, could not change. I don't know yet. You never know. Things happen fast. One day you'll, whatever, be thinking the whole picture, and then somebody will slide into your DMs and hit you up about fucking making a song together, and you're like, oh fuck, all right, maybe I should do this. So yeah.
Right on. Thanks for humoring that line of questioning. I feel like Papa Roach and Jeris walked so Megan the Stallion and Spirit Box could run, and I do love that track, and I'm not a big Megan the Stallion fan, although I know who she is and we know her
Sure.
music, but a
Yeah.
big Spirit Box fan. So I see the same arc maybe, and I do feel like a lot of mainstream artists are going to now pull underground artists and especially metal artists and do remixes and things like that, because it's cool right now.
It's cool as fuck. I mean, yeah, it's
It's
super
cool as
cool.
fuck.
And this isn't like this is not a new concept that's never been treated. Fucking whatever, Aerosmith and Run DMC doing the Walk This Way, whatever it was. I guess that was technically a remix or something, way back then. Way back, when was that? The 80s or so? I don't even know. 90s,
85,
maybe early 90s.
85. and
Yeah.
and Aerosmith was kind of like literally at the gutter of their career. They ruined their career basically with partying. And Run DMC was like becoming the biggest group in the world at the moment. At like
Yeah. So it's perfect.
commercialization of rap. So it was a big deal. And there's been a few others of those,
Yeah,
but that's a great example.
Linkin Park and
And Jay
Jay-Z
Z.
did the whole album. It's like this. And I have a vision. I would love at some point, when I have some more clout and some more power, I would love to do like a new version of like a rap rock album crossover thing, where I find I would, whatever, any of the rappers I love listening to now, and do like a collab EP or collab project with them would be so fucking sick. And I know that I am the person to do that, because I know that it would be fucking awesome if I did it, and it would be huge. So I just need to build myself up, first, to the point where it's a little more enticing to somebody else wanting to be a part of it, and then hopefully I can find the right collaborator. But that's a vision I have for something I'd like to do, few years down the line.
We'll be here for it. Amazing. Sounds like one of my favorite records ever, the Judgment Night soundtrack, where everybody collabed and actually co-wrote and things like that. So I'm all about it.
Yeah, I mean
Jeris, man,
that Linkin Park and Jay-Z won a fucking Grammy.
it
Shit,
did
like
20 years ago, I think this year or next year. It's got an anniversary
yeah,
time.
it was huge, and
Um,
it's because it's awesome. It was
yeah.
awesome. So,
Right, yeah. And
yeah.
then they toured, right? They toured.
Yeah, did they do something?
I
I've seen
think
videos of them playing live. I didn't
couple of
listen to
shows, yeah.
it, but
Hey man, great to see you again, and I wish you all the best with the new record. I can't wait for it to be announced and drop fully, and hear this next song. And yeah, man, we'll be following you, and I'm sure we'll chop it up again in the future when we have more to talk about.
yeah, man. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it a lot.
Thanks
For
for
real.
hanging with Ghost Cult. We'll see you soon.